welcome to our live stream here on Northwest Digital News. I'm Kevin Hunter with my co-host Chris Bornstedt. We have in studio with us Vincent Rosenbaum, right? And Raymond Block across the way from us. So, you know, we've reached the conclusion of the political season, and so we're here this morning to do some trash talking. No, not
Seriously,
the typical
trash talking.
Serious trash talking, yes. Well, the backstory is that Raymond Block, who's sitting in studio with us, he has a website that you need to go see if you haven't been aware of it already. It's called LeavenNoTrace.org, and that first word, Leaven, is Leaven, notrace.org. So make sure you check that out. Raymond has been been on a mission here to pick up trash and garbage all around the country, and you're going to love this story and some of the conflicts that he's run into here as a result of all of this. So I'm just going to give you a couple of snapshots. Last year, Raymond picked up 182,000 pounds of garbage, which included 5,329 tires. He was featured in the Daily Historian. But that's not all. He's been featured in other articles as well, and some of this stuff not so great. Apparently, the people who are our public servants, our governments, etc., law enforcement agencies haven't been so particularly impressed with Raymond's efforts to pick up trash. And so even at one point, they told you needed a permit to pick up trash, right?
Yeah, Coos County is the only one that's given me any pushback on it.
So what was the reasoning behind the
So
permit?
hold on 1 second. I just want to share this with people also as well, that he's been ticketed for offensive littering. Now, this was actually picking trash up and putting it on the side of the highway in bags where the authorities and the people who normally pick this stuff up could pick it up.
ODOT.
Yeah, ODOT. And then also, what were the comments with regard to unsanctioned cleanup efforts? So this is just comical.
Essentially, they didn't give me permission to do it. I wasn't privileged to be able to do that, is what I was told in the trial for offensive littering.
You were not privileged to pick up trash.
Yes.
So we now have to have permission to pick up trash.
Yes.
And privileges.
And privileges. And permits, all to keep our highways clean.
Permits. Well, and there's a permit for trash cleanup, which is the Adopt a Highway permit, which they did not even consider and actually have no knowledge of.
So let's back up. What kind of got you started doing this?
I saw a need, and I knew that I could do something about it, so I did. Just a mass accumulation of trash on the roads that I have never seen in any other state or country that I've lived in, which I've lived in 9 different states and 4 different countries in my life. And
very good.
It's just amazing how fast it accumulates here.
Well, Vincent, you actually turned pro in golf in 2004, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about some pro golf stuff here a little bit later on as well with Vincent. But you met Raymond recently, and you introduced Raymond to us. So talk about how the two of you met and what kind of inspired you about what Raymond was doing.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I got out of church and I drove down the road and I started seeing bags of trash all along the road that had "Don't litter, care" written on the bags. Every 50, 100 yards or a little more, there was also, I think there was some tires and mattresses along with the bags.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he got down in the brush and he was picking out tires and mattresses. People are dumping stuff on the road, and it's just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just ruining our infrastructure and our scenery of, Oregon and Washington here. But anyhow, I kept seeing these bags when I left church. I was going to lunch, and later that day on the way back, I saw his van, and he was out there with his, been working that day, and I stopped to talk to him, and I said, "I really like what you're doing." And and he said, "Yeah, I'm trying to motivate people to get to work and forget about our differences and work together to take care of our, highways, byways, parks, whatever. To, we need to work together and get things done." And he's willing to roll up his sleeves and get down there and get dirty and pick up trash and set an example. He's created a job, and I said, "Well, I'd like to see you put people to work and do this." And he, anyhow, I had thought years ago I have planted over 1.5 million trees in my life. I've cut over 500,000 down. and about doing a tree planting project along our highways, and that kind of inspired me to rekindle that dream, and knowing that we could put people like veterans to work, and people that want to work and need to work. We need to roll up our sleeves. I'm not afraid to get out, pick up trash, and get dirty.
Sure.
Gotta have that permit first, though. Apparently.
You got to have that permit first.
I was really impressed, and I said, I wanted to talk to you more about it, and he gave me a card and whatnot. The next day, I'm actually been doing some logging and tree cutting on my friend's ranch. I worked about 30 of the last 35 days or so cutting trees, and I stopped and talked to him again. They were on the highway working in the morning. I had my four-wheel drive, and I pulled up, and I talked to him, and I says, we talked a little bit, and I met his mother. And I said, I'd really like to help you get some help, with these projects. And he had told me he had walked 367 miles from like the California to Washington, picking up trash on one side of the highway, and was going back 367 miles. And that really impressed me. And I said, well, and I looked at his website, and he documented all the things that he had done, and how many miles he walked, how many bags of trash, what kind of trash, and he's, and this is what we need to do as Americans: forget about our differences, get out there and get things done.
Raymond, you got a book out in front of you that has some photos in it. You mind sharing that with us?
Yeah.
Because these are some of the dump sites, if you'd call it that you've picked up on. Yeah, hand it over here, and we'll show it to people on camera. Chris, you help me out here and make sure we can get some of these pictures out there for people to see.
I would say that's
you may have to actually go stand them up there and hold them.
No, that's good.
I say that's a piece of artwork right off the 101 down there in Coos County.
Okay.
That I did with wood, and then this was another burn project that's 35 foot long and 12 foot tall, put together with driftwood and greenwood peg to burn on the beach.
The tires? Do you know what they do with all the tires?
These tires here, supposedly they're recycled.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to find out what happened to the over 5,000 that I
that's a lot
cleaned
of tires.
up. This site right here is the tire pit, which you'll find on my map on my website. And I pulled 3,000 tires out of that location. There's another 3,000 to pull out, and it's the only privately owned property that I've been working on.
Okay. So what do we got here?
That was my first load that I found when I was walking down Libby Lane, which I found that in the first half mile, and it was right behind this no dumping sign.
Mm-hmm.
And that I dug 2 feet down the hillside and removed 4 tons of material from that one spot.
Where it said no dumping.
It said no dumping.
Yes.
He pulls out a whole container full.
Literally.
Okay, what are we looking at here?
Every available spot. That's the tire pit before I started. That's after I cleared all the brush out, and that was 10 to 15 tires above ground and 7 tires deep in the ground. And there's actually a spring there, and the mud burns and stings when it hits your skin.
Did this person, property owner, own a tire company or
from what they told me, they
store?
bought it like 15 years ago. 20 acre. They haven't checked that area. They were okay with me doing it while the county was willing to take the tires. Now they tell me I'm destroying the timber by removing the tires.
So there's still a whole bunch of tires.
There's another 3,000 down there at least, and I pulled 3,000 out. Locals told me it was the local tire companies and just citizens dumping down there for years. Semi-loads being dumped down there by the old tire companies that are no longer in existence anymore. What I found in Coos County is 100 years of unchecked dumping. It's
my gosh.
It blows my mind.
Okay, what are we looking at here? It looks like a dump site on the highway.
Well, this is actually what I cleaned up off of forest road on forest land. And I've had it happen to me multiple times where I cleaned up a couple tons off a road, and then somebody comes and tells me, oh, we already cleaned that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just cleaned it up, so I know that you didn't. And that's happened multiple times with multiple different agencies.
Okay.
Yeah, this site is 1 mile upriver from Sunset Beach there, which is very popular for tourists, and they seem to have a fecal matter problem. I found 15 50-gallon bags of diapers buried 3 feet in the ground on this site and pulled 14 tons of material out of there.
So how you find this stuff buried? You're actually having to dig for this stuff.
Well, you see it on the surface, and then I just start cleaning it up, and if it goes down the ground, I start digging. I found tires a couple feet down. I found needles and just, medical supplies.
Yeah.
You name it, if mankind's made it, I've found it cleaning up this trash. With 115 dump sites I have mapped so far, only one is complete. The rest of them I still need to work on, and that's not including these roads that are spewing plastics out into the ocean.
I've done about 3 years of cleanup here in our area with Jeff Wilson and a couple other people. We didn't get a whole bunch of tires like what you did, but we did find a whole bunch of needles and a whole bunch of trash.
Right.
And what you're saying about it being buried in the ground is, you just start kicking with your foot, and all of a sudden you're pulling out a plastic bag, and that plastic bag is pulling out, the rest of the bag.
It's just been unchecked, unclean for so long. It's the environment here in Oregon and Washington. It'll just eat it right up and be part of the environment.
For your benefit, Raymond, Jeff Wilson he's referring to is a local port commissioner.
Yeah.
And one of the few elected people who actually go out and do the kind of stuff that he does.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. So he's doing similar things like you do. We had a real bad needle problem up until recently. It's gotten a little better, but those are one of the most common items that we find around here are caps, needles, sailing packs, tie-offs, all that stuff. So
right, we got to keep those. That's about as bad as the feces I find.
Yeah, we found a couple bags of that. That's really interesting how they put it in bags like that and then just toss it
I would
off
rather step in a pile of poop than have to clean up these plastic bags full of trash. But yeah, the final picture there was actually, that's a tire so light that I could lift it with one finger because it's just...
It degraded that far.
You can see all the way through it. And that's the thing is these have arsenic, petroleum products, and many other really, really bad chemicals in them.
Mm-hmm.
Tires are extremely hazardous. They found that putting them in parks or putting them on race tracks is not a good idea. The people that use those get sick. So we need to find an alternative for these tires. But at this point, we just need to get them out of the forest. What really gets me is I've had locals down there tell me I hadn't even seen the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Because they've been there for generations and they've seen all these stacks out there. And I had one guy tell me they found this huge pile and post-dated some of it over 100 years.
Wow.
But then all around, I'm finding dump sites on the highways. The way station in between Astoria and Seaside is a dump spot. I have that one mapped now. There's probably 2 to 5 tons there, just spread out across the hill.
So let's back up for just a moment. You've had a number of organizations, whether they're charitable organizations or whatever, that were donating to you and helping you financially do what you're doing. Talk about that, how some of that got started, then we'll get into where kind of the thing started to unravel. But talk about who was involved with you initially to help fund some of the stuff that you're doing.
Well, essentially most of the time it's been small donations from the community, and a few companies were going to donate, but then everything went downhill when I got the offensive littering ticket. I'm actually $10,000 in debt from last year's efforts and $3,000 in debt for this year's efforts so far. So it's been hard, but it's not about the money. It's about the purpose behind it. And at this point, seeing as I lost almost everything, it kind of makes it easier to live off of a meager amount of money. But I just started because I saw the necessity, and I had nice support from the community, and everyone was kind of, helping here or there a little bit and offered help. But then as soon as I got that offensive littering ticket, everything went downhill. I even had a grant set up that was for $24,000 for operating costs for 2 years. And as soon as I got the offensive littering ticket, they pulled out and decided not to do that.
So I'm curious, when you started on all of this, you probably felt very enthusiastic and all fired up to go out and do something great and make a change.
Well, it was partially that, but mostly heartbreak. I couldn't believe it.
It's hard to believe how much garbage people toss out their windows. It's
ridiculous.
The dump sites and the absolute neglect.
Right. Well, you see like I-5, and if you look down on the sides and stuff like that, it's disgusting.
Right.
It's like nobody saw the Indian commercial from back in the 70s and 80s, you know, that one tier.
Yep.
You know?
I shared that on my page as well.
They
It's
just,
like,
you know,
what happened to this thought process, this, the idea of protecting the environment? It's just obviously been lost through the generations.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it seems like Oregon and Washington so far seem to have the biggest problem, except for the East Coast, of course. But for the West Coast, that's what it's really looking like. I'm going to do some more research to find out and try to find some solution. But bottom line, I'm just going to try to create a platform program that will keep the trash cleaned up and progress into future generations to keep it clean.
For those of you that are following us here on the live stream or on this broadcast, you can find more information on Raymond Block by going to LeavenNoTrace. It's LEAVEN NoTrace.org. You can also find him on Facebook. LeavenNoTrace has a Facebook page there. Or you could also email if you have questions to LeavenNoTrace@gmail.com. So Raymond, let's visit a little bit about when things started going downhill for you, when all the harassment, which is essentially what I see it as, that came to you from people in the county and in some of the areas in which you were working. When did all of this start? And take us back to the beginning of it.
Well, back in January last year is when I started, and at first the county sent people out to threaten me with jail and fines if I continued doing these cleanups and leaving the trash.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I put my last $3,000 into it and quit my self-employed work to put full time into it. And that's what I was just hoping, is if they disposed of it, I'd get the community to support me to be able to be out there every day getting this done.
Mm-hmm.
To my surprise, they came out and just threatened me. As an American, I did not stand for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're a public servant, and that's how they should act. So I stood my ground, and they decided to help. So through 8 months, I removed 182,000 pounds of trash and over 5,000 tires. And at this point, they're telling me they can't handle my volume. And this is mostly done by one man.
One
really
man's effort. We can't handle your volume.
I barely had any volunteers. Given for 8 months, I never took a day off. I was always out there every single day. Removing as much as I possibly could. At first, I was climbing down 1,000-foot hills, maybe yards, and tying 3 tires on a rope, climbing back up.
maybe they're afraid you're going to fill up the landfill.
They tell me they just can't afford it, and they do not feel it's their responsibility. I found that most government agencies have put trash removal at the lowest priority because society forgot to make it a priority. So they have put it at bottom priority and are having to realize through me that it is their responsibility and it should be a priority.
So when you mentioned that they started threatening you, what was the nature of the threats? Like, what did they say?
Give me just because.
What's that?
Just because.
Just because.
That's what they wanted. They didn't want me to be cleaning up the trash.
One place.
But what did they say to you? What did they say?
They told me if I continued doing it, they would give me fines and maybe jail, and I needed to just stop removing the trash.
And they would be fining you for piling the garbage up on the side of the road.
For consolidating the trash at a dump sites that are directly off county roads.
Making it very easy for them to pick up.
Right.
They're fining you for it.
Yeah, and that's actually, I got the offensive littering ticket when I was only cleaning the county easement on one road. So what Adopt a Highway program should be doing, which state and county and city all have different Adopt a Highway programs separate.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the county, and all Adopt a Highway programs are a complete failure. They're dead. The program needs to be revamped. But that's all I was doing, was consolidating trash on the property they're responsible for.
So when I'm hearing you talk about how much work you're doing to harvest some of this trash off the roadsides, I can tell you that with various organizations that I've been involved in the past, or even let's say organization within a community that was going to do a Adopt a Highway and would contact me and say, hey, you want to come out and help us? We're going to do a cleanup effort on a Saturday. Those vehicles were moving fast enough. It would be virtually impossible to do the cleanup that you're talking about.
Right.
And so is that what you're referring to? Because I'm a pretty fast walker, and I had a hard time keeping up with the truck that I was supposed to be throwing trash into. So you just like see a couple things and run and throw it in the thing, and see a couple more things and run. And so I mean, when the cleanup was done, it was. I mean, you could have inconvenienced 20 people who are out running a marathon to pick up a few pieces of garbage on the way, and they would have done just as good a job.
Well, and they do a few counties, like Coos County does have a summertime thing where they get the high school kids and pay them $10 an hour to come out and clean up sections of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that they do down there, and it's kind of the only thing a lot of places do.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in on the 30 over here, it was just crazy.
That would 30 from Astoria?
From Astoria.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that was just, it's pretty much about the same accumulation I saw from Astoria to Seaside, which there was a bag every 50 feet to 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a mass accumulation. And it being right by a river, it just drives me nuts. I can't understand how we as a species let this happen, because this is a species problem, because it's happening all around the world.
So I'm curious to know, is any of these legal issues, if you would call it that, or is any of this stuff hanging over your head currently?
Oh yeah, it's
so what's going on relative to this trash cleanup that you've been doing, and what's still hanging out there legally?
At this moment, I tried to fight them on the offensive littering ticket, and they added a charge of disorderly conduct for not having a permit, which is the work permit for doing work on the county easement. It has nothing to do with cleaning up trash.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the Adopt a Highway permit.
Mm-hmm.
They just... I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
I'm curious if it's okay. I'm curious if anybody has ever shared with you what the context of Adopt the Highway was versus what you're doing, because clearly, as I mentioned, you're doing a much more thorough cleanup. But have any of them, when they've come out and told you that Adopt the Highway is a so-called permitted process and thereby sanctioned, I guess?
Yeah.
What are they saying is the difference between that and what you're doing?
It's sanctioned, and it's a permit process.
Mm-hmm.
So what they came out and told me made no sense. They essentially just didn't want me to clean up the trash. I kept asking them why, and they said because. And I said because isn't a good enough reason.
Mm-hmm.
This is how government works, you guys. They really gunk it up, man.
Well, the Adopt a Highway program, I've found that there's nobody really watching over it. The as much as I know about it is you can go out, one person or group can adopt a mile, not 2, not 3, and they only have to go out 2 to 4 times a year. And that's the one thing that the county commissioners in Coos County are telling me is that they couldn't handle the volume of trash that I clean up off of a road, because it should only be 2 to 4 times.
With like the tire stuff, tires are expensive to dispose of, and so are large volumes of trash. I mean, it costs money. I'm not saying that they should be doing this to you, but it costs money to do these things.
Well, and that's another issue that I see is the fact that they told me it cost them $100 a ton to get rid of tires. I know, because I moved for over 5,000, that 300 to 400 tires, because I loaded the bins up for them as well, and that's about a ton. 300 to 400 tires matter in their size. So if people are paying $3 to $10 per tire to recycle their tire, then 3 times 3 is $900. So there's $800 extra that the citizens are paying to get rid of tires, when the county could do it at $100 a ton. And then you have the local sanitation company, they pay $150 a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And then the commissioners sit there and tell me over and over there is no profit in recycling. Simple math says yes, there is. There has to be money in that recycling. For the citizens to pay $3 to $10 mattering the size, and 300 to 400 tires being a ton, it just seems like there's a lot of money out there somewhere that we're not being privy to.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense to me, the math of it. And sometimes I actually found citizens that say they pay twice. So they'll pay once for their recycling fee that they're supposed to get back when they come get new tires. But if they don't do that, they have to pay to get rid of that tire. So now they have paid twice to recycle that tire.
So how are you making ends meet? When you mentioned that you incurred $10,000 in debt last year, another $3,000 this year, how are you making ends meet? Without sharing personal information, but I'm just...
Well, I stay with my basic needs. I really don't need that much to be happy at this point. I don't have to pay rent or have utility bills or any of that. So, that'd be over $1,000 a month. I'd just be spewing out somewhere, and I could just put that in my program. So I just have friends that I stay with, and just, we just keep life simple, pretty much living out of the vehicle, doing these campaigns. That's one thing we definitely need, is a bigger vehicle to be able to just be a little bit more comfortable, because we have a Ford Explorer, so it's packed to the brim, spring loaded with all kinds of equipment. There's still more that I would like to have, and I'm a big guy, so I'm like cramped in there. But there's a few things that we could really use that would make this job a lot easier. But like I told a lot of people, I'm not going to let anything stop me from doing this.
There's a lot of people out there with resources, Raymond. So what are those things that you'd need to make your job easier?
A vehicle donated is a big one right now. Just a larger van, or even a caravan kind of work truck, place where we can sleep and have our equipment. We've been lucky enough to have people that'll host us, and we've got a roof over our head for the wintertime run that I'm doing. But equipment, supplies, gloves, good rain gear, trash bags, which I have out all on my Facebook, and people can also contact me and ask me what else we need. But grabbers and pretty much anything for the effort. And definitely funding is huge, because I not only need to be able to do what I'm doing, which I could probably do for about $12,000 a year, but I want to amp it up, and I want to hire people. I want crews. I want people out there doing what I'm doing, running through communities and inspiring them and showing them how much trash is there, because life keeps people busy, and you drive down the road, you don't really see how much trash is there. And when I see a little bit, I know I'll find a lot. When you walk it, it's totally different. And there's a lot of different things about our society that we need to change to stop the mass accumulation. Like the car parts on the I-5, it's the same thing on the 101. The car parts are not being cleaned up, and a lot's being left, and we create too much plastic as a society. So it's definitely something that it's a long-term thing to change our products. But at this point, we just need to police what we're doing to the earth, because without it, we won't survive.
So what's your plans beyond this? What's your plans here for the rest of the year, and what's kind of your looking out 12 months into next year? What are your future plans?
Right now, I'm working on trying to find as many grants as I can get. So grant writers and grant finders are definitely necessary. I want to inspire people to act, do less talking, more doing. Get out there and care about more than just what's in front of your property. If everyone gets together, there's enough people, we could police the entire land and keep it clean. It's pretty much what I'm doing, is just trying to inspire people, get them to think about it, be part of their normal routine to keep things clean. Like the trash on the roads comes out of back of people's trucks a lot. Cars, dump trucks, workers. I find a lot of construction working trash. So everyone just needs to think about what they're doing and kind of tie it down a little bit more. And I'm just going to keep doing that. The wintertime, I got 3 months to get the California border, I'm guessing. And then I'll take a little break, and I'm either going to start working on a recycling program to benefit Oregon and create jobs, because there is a mass amount of money in recycling, and it needs to benefit each community and the citizens in it by creating jobs. So that's what I'm going to kind of aim for in one of my projects. But then I'll probably continue what I'm doing, because it's really spreading the word and getting more and more people to think about it. So I'll probably do the Redwood Highway next, and then I-5 is definitely...
I-5 is a big one.
It's
You got to be
in my
careful with
scopes.
that one, though.
I've been working with ODOT. I got a meeting with them in wintertime to help them revamp the Adopt a Highway program. I told them I'd help advertise. I want to make it so popular that if you live in a community, you are part of the Adopt a Highway program. And have 5 people, 6 people on that 1 mile. That means you go out twice a year, and you go out twice a year, and we police it enough to where this mass accumulation that's going on, we get it under control. Because it moves so fast out to these waters and out to the ocean. It's really amazing. And what gave me the idea for the cleanup for the 101, I threw 5 messages in a bottle out in the ocean. And it was on an outgoing tide, on a full moon, so a heavy outgoing tide.
Mm-hmm.
A week later, I got a call, and one ended up back in the bay. 2 months later, one ended up 30 miles north. 3 months later, one ended up 40 miles south. And then 14 months later, I get a call from Hawaii. And the guy's like all excited, like a kid. He's like, I really hope you threw this from the Oregon coast. And I said, well, certainly I did. He's like, awesome. My wife works for NOAA. I was like, what are the chances of that? Right? So they said they tracked it and it went from the Oregon coast and it went out and joined the Pacific Trash Islands. And the hurricane went through and swept through the Pacific Trash Islands and just barely missed Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, it was 25, 30 feet off the shore. It looked like you could walk on it. It was so thick, so much trash. And they're out there trying to get that cleaned up. That's where they found my bottle.
Wow.
So it showed me that everything that's coming off these roads, which is the reason I started doing this, seeing the accumulation on the roads. And Coos Bay is the biggest coastal city in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just right there. And every rain, it's spewing that trash out into the ocean. So that's why I wanted to come up the Oregon coast and show people that this is what we are doing to the planet. It's, people clean the beaches and the streams, and they don't realize most of that trash is coming from our roads. It's not really the dump sites as much, but it's definitely the roads. I think that would be 80% of the accumulation of what's going on.
Have you witnessed any of the time you spent out on the highway? Have you witnessed anybody just come along and backing their vehicle up to the woods and getting rid of their trash? Have you seen that happen?
Oh, no, because I'd post pictures and the bloody aftermath of that.
Yeah.
There'd
be some accountability.
I do watch stuff fly out of the back of people's trucks, back of people's cars, the trucks that pick up people's trash flying out of them. I can read the trash. Every piece of trash has a story. You can kind of tell. Did they throw it out? Did they throw it in the back of their truck and think it was going to stay there? Was it a construction trash? Was it on purpose? It's coming from every angle of society.
With as many people stopping at fast food places or gas stations or wherever to get something to eat and get back on the highway,
right?
I bet a lot of it's got to be food trash.
In every community that I come into, I can tell you what stores are in that community. Like before I get to Lincoln City or Newport.
There's a McDonald's, Applebee's.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny enough. I guess Burger King just isn't popular because I don't find much of their trash. But I can tell what people drink, what kind of alcohol people drink in between this point and this point, because I find a mass accumulation of those bottles, cans. Vodka is one of people's favorites, obviously. But in between, where was it? Seaside and Cannon Beach, I found 18 bottles of the Skyline vodka, blue bottle. And it's all on the same side of the
darn
road.
tourists.
Darn tourists. Well, and that's the thing.
By the millions.
Well, and when I pointed out some of those things down there on Libby Lane, because I could notice the same corner had the same alcohol every single time. That's where they finished their drink and tossed it out because people don't want those alcohol bottles in there to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And a few people, one person said, I know who drinks that stuff and drives down that road every single day. I'm like, well, go have a talk with them, please. Because that's the kind of things that as a community, if we pay attention, we can identify that and try to control this mass accumulation problem that's going on, because it blows my mind. I was just from Seaside to Astoria just a week ago, and it looks like I wasn't even there. It was a
bad problem.
It blew my mind driving by there today. It
So
looked
you know
like
what?
I wasn't even there.
One of the really obvious problems out of all that, in addition to the trash, which is a big enough problem in and of itself, but when you're talking about finding that number of alcohol bottles and vodka bottles and whatever else, it's not like somebody was walking home and decided to drive. These are people who are drinking and driving.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about beer cans? Because there's a bounty on
Lots.
beer cans. So do you get to recycle those?
Yesterday, I walked 5 miles and picked up 30 miles of trash going up the Niskawa Mountain, sacred place for the locals, and 5 of those were recycling. The deposit recycling. Because I don't keep the rest. I don't have the room. If I had the room, I would.
Now, do you recycle that and get some of that money back?
Yeah, that's essentially how I pay for my cigarettes.
Okay.
So if I don't find recycling, I don't smoke. So I pick up all the recycling I can.
Yeah, we have a lot of forest lands and a lot of logging roads around here, so beer cans and stuff like that is something that we see frequently.
The 10 cents I think helped in a slight way. I don't think it made a big difference though, because the amount that I'm finding on the roads
is
only on the places that people walk. And that's the other thing, is like the national forests, refuges, and places like that are protected, left for animals that not many people walk, or these small sections where people don't walk the highway. Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how from Astoria to Seaside, even though people still walk there, that was the worst. One thing I noticed when I started from California to go into Washington is the first third was I was making it 10 to 20 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting anywhere from 30 to 40 bags of trash. I hit Central Oregon, and I was making it 6 to 10 miles a day, same amount of bags. And then I hit Northern, and I can only make it 3 to 6, and same amount of bags. It just got worse and worse and worse as I started going north. So I'd say Clatsop County, I would compare to Coos County, because Coos County was kind of sitting there as the real bad spot in the area. But then, there's obviously other places that are just as bad, with many more dump sites.
And they're the ones who have actually given you most of the problem.
In Coos County, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They have something they're hiding, and I haven't figured out that piece of the puzzle yet. But it could just be that there's this mass accumulation of trash over 100 years being dumped there. And as far as I found, there's a federal law that's connected to the DEQ. Anything over 100 tires is deemed a hazard and must be permitted. If it can't be permitted, it needs to be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because their tires are a fire hazard, mosquito hazard, and a new one to me was a lightning hazard. They'll actually attract lightning anything over 100 tires. But then who enforces that law?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at. And I am fighting tooth and nail with DEQ, trying to get my complaints taken care of and get these 100 dump sites that I found and the rest of them that I haven't found, cleaned up, because it's unacceptable.
Well, let me ask you this. I think people would love to hear the continuation of your story as we go forward into the rest of the year, your trips down to Northern California, and then also how to help. And so we'd love to add you into our Northwest Digital News as a site contributor. And if you'd like to either give us a once a week or whenever you feel compelled to, give us a update on what's happening there. If there's things in particular that you need or need help with, whatever, feel free to include those on them.
Awesome.
But I'm going to ask you to contribute and shoot us segments here that we can air on Northwest Digital News, because we'll definitely help create some publicity around what you're doing and your ongoing efforts. I think it's admirable.
Well, thank you very much. It's
I
my
did
pleasure.
too.
Yeah.
I was really impressed when I talked to him. I thought, we need more people like this taking action.
Well,
We get our differences, work together,
I
get things done.
I had one guy tell me, I stopped off, and he was like, "Yeah, it's really awesome what you're doing. You're really amazing. You're a superhero. I'm just a speck, so I don't really matter. But you're something." I'm like, well, that's what you don't understand. You don't see is I'm a speck too, just like you.
Yeah.
I'm just creating a tornado and a hurricane because I know I can. It's like you can do the same. It's like that's what I need from everybody. Everyone has that power to change the world for the better around them. And all they need to do is just act. Just do it. Stop talking about it. Stop complaining about these problems that you see, and pull together as a community. Get to know your neighbor. And if we all work together, we can really make a massive difference and make this world wonderful.
What you were just sharing reminded me of a illustration. It was actually a story that was shared with me recently, but it was a granddaughter sharing with her grandmother some of the things she was facing in life and her challenges, etc. And the grandmother says, "Well, you're either like the egg, the carrot, or the coffee bean." Have you heard this story? No. And so she took to illustrate to the granddaughter what she was talking about. She took a pot of boiling water. She puts an egg in there, and within 15 minutes, the egg had gone from soft to hard. She put carrots in there, and within a given period of time, they went from hard to soft. And she put a coffee bean in there, and it went from water to a delicious beverage. And she said, you can either be the egg that is hardened by circumstances that you face in life. You can either be the carrot that is softened by and becomes complacent by its environment, or you can be the coffee bean and actually change the environment.
Nice.
And I thought that was really interesting. So for you, Raymond, you're out there being the coffee bean.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'm hoping to lead by example and, get people inspired and energized and, to do something.
You know what I really love about that is I grew up in a household that was very much a entrepreneurial-minded household. And what's good about that is that it taught us as siblings in the house that you are the person in control of your own destiny. You're the person who goes out there and makes a difference. And I think what unfortunately has happened in our society, in our schools, our colleges, our universities, is we have taught so much of the employee mindset, the mindset that we have to go out there and wait for somebody else to do something,
right,
so then we can do something, or we can be a part of something somebody else is doing. And no, I like the trailblazer attitude, and I wish we taught more of that. But I don't know anything about your parents or your family or where you came from, but somebody touched you in the right way, in the right place somewhere, Raymond. And
blessed to have awesome parents.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And are they still living?
My dad passed away about 2 years ago, but one reason my mom came up here and helped me is because I was out there alone most of the time on those hills cleaning up. So she's kind of up here on a permanent vacation, helping me.
I'm sure she's very proud of you.
Oh yeah, she is, and she's enjoying herself. But both of us, put it mostly on my dad. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be the people that we are. He was one amazing dude. I'll tell you what.
Good to hear. Awesome. Everybody has to have a amazing, inspiring person around them, right, especially when you're younger growing up, because it shapes who you are. For those of you that have interest, you can find Raymond Block on the web, LeavenNoTrace.org. That's LEAVEN, notrace.org. And his contact number, 541-404-9734. If you would, Chris, put that in the notes here.
Yeah, I'll do that here in a little bit. That's not.
Yeah, okay. So again, the number is 541-404-9734. You can also email Raymond at LeavenNoTrace@gmail.com. And that the word Leaven is spelt like leaven. Share the inspiration behind that word with our audience.
Well, when I first started this, I wanted to start with something that people could relate to. Which many people can relate to LeavenNoTrace. So I started looking around and I ran into leaven, which is a yeast for a bread, but the second definition was to transform or modify something for the better. And it just seemed to make sense. So I changed the pronunciation of it to Leaven and gave it the second definition. And it just felt
you
right.
created your own word that worked for you.
created my own word, which is that's the English language.
That's
created
right.
it for many different languages. Absolutely.
So you can either think of it as LeavenNoTrace or LeavenNoTrace. But LeavenNoTrace at Gmail or LeavenNoTrace.org on the web. And you also have a Facebook under the same name. So is that a page or a group?
Yeah, it's a page.
It's a Facebook page.
Yeah, I didn't do Facebook before I started doing this, but I knew it was an outlet that I had to use.
Yep.
So I've gotten familiar
Page
with it.
is one of the best ways to go.
Social media is very, very effective.
Right. It's definitely helped in reaching out there and, getting different avenues and connecting with other groups. That's what I want to do. I want this to benefit every level of society. So, but you can go on the Facebook page and pretty much find out what we need and what you can do to help. And we're always happy to have volunteers. I have extra vests and grabbers, if you want to endure the rains. I'm lucky enough to like the rain.
So let me ask you this question for somebody who maybe wants to come out and work with you. You're going, this 367-mile trip is a long haul. When are you in this area where it would be close enough for somebody who's got work to do Monday through Friday, whatever, but they're going, hey, I want to give some of my evenings or my weekend or whatever. Would it be best for them just to connect with you through your website, or how would they?
They can check out the website with interactive map, and we're posting every day what I've done going south, so you can know exactly where I am. And I do anywhere from 3 to 6 each day, and I work 2 weeks at a time, and then I'll go back down to Coos County and spend a weekend with my son, and then I come back up and start where I ended off. So you could follow the website on the map, or just call me, and I can let you know where I am if you want to come help. And like I said, later on, obviously, Highway 30 needs it. And, pretty much everywhere that I seem to drive needs that. A big thing that I do need is legal support for the issues I'm having and to help that community down there, because it feels so un-American. It is un-American. The fact that these people are afraid of their government to the point to where they stop supporting me as soon as the government went.
Yeah.
Get me started.
Right? I get started on that one. But yeah, everything that, anything that we need and the support, you can find that through the Facebook page or just contacting me. And like I keep saying, I keep telling people, it's a species problem. As a species, we need to solve it.
Somebody, Katie Seeley, just posted your website on the link here, following along as well. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, she's
Katie.
actually my admin and treasurer. She's
That's why I didn't need to throw out the information.
one of the rare people that have fully wanted to invest their time into this.
Yep.
Because, picking up trash, it's no fun. It really isn't. Walking miles a day. But to look back and see it clean gives you the best feeling in the world. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I can't relate to that, but having spent a number of years in the military, I could tell you there's a lot of days and a lot of weeks in which it was absolutely no fun, but at no time were we not proud of what we were doing.
Right.
And yeah, there was an incredible feeling that came out of that,
I think
serving and
people-
making a
I think
difference.
people have lost that too. The feeling of pride when they're doing something. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us in studio today, Raymond. We're going to have
you.
some conversation with Vincent in just a moment. But for Raymond's segment, we're going to wrap that. Again, to get a hold of Raymond, go to LeavenNoTrace.org. That website is actually linked on the live stream here now, thanks to Katie. You can also reach him at 541-404-9734. Again, 541-404-9734. Or you can also email him on Gmail at LeavenNoTrace, and that's LeavenNoTrace @gmail.com. I'm Kevin Hunter with Chris Bornstedt. We have Vincent Rosenbaum in studio with us, along with Raymond Block. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned.